it's definitely going to be interesting, I think. But I'll try to at least go through, I guess, the divisional winners, and then at least who's probably going to win the division. And how does that kind of factor into the wild card spots here? So starting with the AFC, obviously I think you can start with the AFC East. The Miami Dolphins, it'll be tough for the Buffalo Bills, I think, to catch up. Is it possible? Sure, it is. But obviously, I think the Dolphins are basically have to win out, and or the Bills will have to win out, and the Dolphins, play 500 type of football for the rest of the year, which I think they can definitely win a lot of those games there. So I'm just gonna say Dolphins take that. Ravens to AFC North. Well, I'm just gonna assume that they take that as well. The AFC South, that's going to be the most interesting one with, the Jaguars. They're still favored. They're actually heavily favored to still win that division, but they're only up by one game, so that's still kind of in play there. And then Chiefs, the Chiefs have been sliding, obviously defending champions with Patrick Mahomes and such, but only one game ahead of the Broncos, so something to look there. But just for the sake of argument, I'm just going to say that the Chiefs are able to win the division, and then I guess moving on to more of the wild cards here. I think that kind of leaves the Browns, Colts, Broncos, Bengals, Steelers, Bills. I know there's some other teams there still with a fighting chance, but I think those are really going to be the primary teams that we probably want to talk about here. So I think I have making the wild card here, and I'll put my reasons down for sure. I have the Browns getting in, I have the Colts getting in, and then I have the Broncos getting in. So sorry Bengals fans, sorry Steelers fans, and I know Pat, you want to talk about this. Sorry Bills fans. I've been trying to run simulations and everything, and the Bills, I think they have to kind of win out to make the playoffs, and then secure their division and everything, or at least win the playoffs or get into the playoffs, and not win the division. But I think the key thing that's kind of going against the Bills is that they basically have to win out, just because I think it's gonna be tough for them to catch up to the Miami Dolphins. And then with that 10 win spot, because I think whoever the wild card teams are that make it out of the AFC, they're gonna have to basically win 10 games, right? Um, and if they win out, right, then they win that 11 games, and then they're basically an 11 win wild card team, with the Dolphins kind of edging them out there. Because the Bills, they lose out because they don't have a lot of those tiebreakers, from my understanding. I think a lot of the tiebreakers, they go in favor of the Colts, and then the Broncos as well. I think they won some head-to-head matchups there earlier in the season, so that's why, from my understanding of things, the Bills basically have to win out, even if they are an 11 or 10 wins team there. So, and then I don't know, the Browns, easy. They have a pretty easy schedule, I think, in my opinion. I think they could beat the Bengals. They got the Texans, who they've been beat up. They got the Jets, who, I mean, they've been playing better, but again, you're kind of counting on Zach Wilson a little bit, and Zach Wilson, I think, is just going to do Zach Wilson things. And then I had them losing out actually to the Bengals there, but that still gives them 11 victories. Colts, I think they can beat the Steelers. I think they could potentially beat the Falcons. But I do believe that they can beat the Raiders and Texans. So Colts have a pretty easy schedule. Are they a better team than maybe the Bills? That obviously I don't think so, but that's just kind of how the schedule has unfolded here. And they own a lot of those tiebreakers there, and that's really what's set themselves up well. And then the Broncos, man, I think they can lose to the Lions here, but I think they beat the Patriots. I think they beat the Chargers, and then I think they beat the Raiders, and I think that's good enough for them to win the final wild card spot here. So I don't know. I'll pause. Let me know what you have, Pat. we'll have to share each other's notes and exchange words of kindness and all the awesome fun stuff here.
Yeah, no doubt. I think our top four in the AFC are both matched up correctly. I've got Baltimore, KC, Miami, and Jacksonville taking up those divisions, which leaves us with three, other playoff berths to hand out. Like you were talking about with the Cleveland Browns, they've already got, somewhat of a head start there at 8-5. I think looking at the remainder of their schedule with the Bears, Texans, Jets, and the Bengals itself, I think they can split. I think at the very worst they're going to split. That gets them 10 wins. I think that gets them in the playoffs there, with all tiebreakers considered as well. Then there's this slew, obviously, of teams that are 7-6 right now. I think there's six of them. I kind of went across and just laid out all their schedules, and I just week to week chose winners, chose losers. I didn't have any bias in it, to be completely honest with you. I just try to do it as objectively as possible with how I saw those matchups kind of playing out. And, thinking about guys who may be injured, like a CJ Stroud right now, that could probably, get healthy over another week or so, but, may happen to drop a game early on in that, 4-game set. So going across the board, the two teams that I have winning 3 of 4 and securing those last two spots at 10 wins, for me, is going to be the Houston Texans, and the Buffalo Bills. I know we were talking about that in general, and like you caught me on it. I really didn't set it up that way. I figured any of these other teams could get to 10 wins too and have that tiebreaker on the Bills. But of the Steelers, Colts, Broncos, and Bengals, I just couldn't get there. I was getting either splits or I was getting, losing 3 of 4. So with Houston, I think they do drop this game this coming weekend in Tennessee. We don't know if Stroud's going to play. He's in that concussion protocol right now. They don't have Tank Dell, which I think is a huge loss for them. But I still think they've got enough there, offensively and then just overall, team wise and motivation wise to pull out some victories. One would have to be over Cleveland, but then they'd also just have to play a return game against Titans, which I think they can split, and then they'd get a Week 18 win against the Indianapolis Colts to secure their spot. If you're looking at Buffalo, they've got the Cowboys, Chargers, Pats, and Dolphins. I think, and you think they're going to get this win over the Cowboys this weekend. I think they can easily beat the Chargers and Pats with, backup, second, third string quarterbacks in general. And then, perhaps they're losing that last one in Miami. If Miami secured a playoff spot and want to maybe rest some of their starters just for the playoffs, maybe they take it easy on Buffalo. Maybe they don't. I mean, if I were Miami, I wouldn't, but who knows? Maybe they would care more about being healthy for the playoffs than, beating a divisional opponent there. Just otherwise, I mean, for me, those are the two next best teams when I just think of, teams overall. I think, Cincy's probably that one team I'm looking at in this mix that, if I could think of it a little bit, differently, I think they might have a shot here with the way that Jake Browning's actually played. I mean, I've got them beating the Vikings, beating the Browns, but, and I've got them losing to the Steelers, I believe, on the road, and then losing to the Chiefs. I mean, they could possibly win that game against the Steelers, and that would give them, the upper hand against Buffalo at least. But tons going on. I see your call outs for your games and the teams that you have ranked in there. This thing could go in a million different directions, but that's just kind of the way my thought process went with this whole thing. But happy to debate any AFC teams.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's totally fair. And hey, look, this is all the fun parts, and we're just talking about the unknown and everything. But I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, I didn't put the Texans there just because, I don't see them necessarily winning against, I mean, maybe even the Titans. Like, the Titans played pretty well. Like, they showed up, against Green Bay the other day and beat them there. So, and yeah, they've just been struggling. At least that's the team I see, lost 30-6 against the Jets. Nice that they beat the Broncos there, but the rest, it just seems like they've been kind of struggling along a little bit, especially after losing Tank Dell, and then with Stroud beaten up, there's just been a lot of, I guess, doubt that I have with the team. I mean, for me, it's much more of like, hey, it's great, they had a great run and everything, but losing Tank Dell, like your top wide out there, and then CJ Stroud, obviously I think Davis Mills, he's he was pretty capable, I know, last year, but the team that they were that they are this year, like a lot of it is because of CJ Stroud, and we'll see how effective he is, without, I guess, his top weapons. Also, I think Nico Collins, he might be hurt too. So if he misses game time, no Tank Dell too. That's a lot of tough patches. Dalton Schultz maybe too. I mean, they just seem really banged up right now. So that's where I have some doubts of, like, are they gonna be healthy? And then they got the Browns, they got the Colts. Both those teams are really jockeying for playoff positions, and they're all kind of fairly healthy, and with their own kind of journeyman quarterbacks a little bit there too. So, but yeah, if they are able to at least beat the Titans and sweep them, essentially, that'll be key, I think, for them to get victory. And if they are able to get another one from either the Colts or Browns, that gets them to 10 wins, right? So, but I just have some doubts, because they've just been banged up there. But the rest, I mean, like you mentioned, this Bills team, they can definitely win out, or maybe the Browns falter a little bit, or maybe like some of these other teams too, kind of just don't play the best. So
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm gambling on the Texans to lose this week. I would pick the Titans in any sort of bets that you have placed. I mean, Stroud has to be healthy. He's got to get through the concussion protocol this week for them to have a shot, in my opinion. If he is healthy moving forward, I think that he can outcompete the other three quarterbacks that you'd face in those weeks to follow. Obviously, it's 53 against 53. It's not, one quarterback against another, but I think that Stroud brings a ton of confidence and, has obviously performed as a, top 8, top 10 quarterback throughout this entire year. I could see him pulling it off, but yeah, I could easily see another, just one loss will throw their whole, standing off. So it's really anyone's game. I feel like my big takeaway with the AFC, like we'll get to with the NFC, is like looking at those last two seeds, whoever does get in. For me, if Buffalo's not one of them, these are just some awful playoff teams, man. These are some easy victories for the teams that are getting in that top tier of the AFC, just in terms of standing.
I mean, if I am, one of the division winners, right? I would not want to face against the Bills. Like, I don't think any team in the playoffs wants to go against Josh Allen and that Bills team, So, with respect to the Bills, but they have to get there. And in my opinion, I think they have to win out and kind of have the chips fall where they may, right? So, but they can either do that, or it's going to be difficult, I think. But a lot of things can fall in their way, and nobody wants to go against this Bills team because, and like you mentioned before, that last game, we'll see how the Miami Dolphins are kind of stacked. If they want to position more themselves, we'll see if they're going to have to fight, for that first round bye, right, with probably the Kansas City Chiefs, I presume. So something like that could happen. But if they don't need that, then they can just sit their players and kind of watch them go. But if I am them, I just be like, I'd rather just beat the Buffalo Bills and get them out of the playoffs, right? I think that kind of works in their favor too, and then also kind of preps themselves up for the rest of the playoffs. But I don't know. It'll be fun, I think, to see what happens. I think at that final week with the Dolphins versus Bills, seeing if the Bills are still in it. But it looks like with their schedule, they most likely will be. So it'll be a fun thing to watch, I think, for sure.
No doubt.